Leo Cloutier is sponsored by Poster Fix, where we bring your vintage posters back to life.
Howdy, everybody. This is Leo Cloutier with Malice to It None. It's indeed a pleasure to have as our guest here today one of the outstanding coaches in Major League Baseball, and also, at one time, not so long ago, the outstanding coach in college baseball. And I'd like to welcome to our show, with the California Angels, Bobby Winkles. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Leo. It's nice to be here.
Well, Bobby, it's certainly a pleasure to have you as our guest here today. Bobby, you're in the major leagues, which happens to be, you're a coach now, and the next step, of course, is that of a manager, and I presume that the time isn't too far away when you'll occupy such a position.
Well, that's very complimentary of you to say that. Some people come to the big leagues, I know, just to coach. My situation is a little bit different. I think it would be a real challenge to be able to try and take 25 men and make them play as one. And I think regardless of what anybody knows about baseball or the fundamentals of the game, that can all be learned. But to make guys get along is the big problem in the big leagues, because they all make different money and they all have a different temperament. And so I think that is a real challenge. And the only reason that I really left Arizona State was to get to work with Del Rice, who I know is a real good handler of men, and maybe learn what I can about the game of baseball at the big league level.
Bobby, you're up in the major leagues with tremendous credentials as a college coach. You won 3 different NCAA championships in 65, 67, and 69, compiled an amazing record of 524 victories against 172 losses for a 752 percentage. You've sent so many outstanding men into the major leagues. Those are tremendous credentials.
Well, I appreciate that. You know more about me than I do. I didn't really know how many we won and lost. I knew we did win 400 or 500 or more, but we have been fortunate enough to have some young men play in the big leagues like Reggie Jackson and Sal Bando and Rick Mundy and a little boy from Dallas by the name of Lenny Randall, a second baseman, and of course Gentry and Dyer of the Mets. So we've got 7 or 8 kids playing in the big leagues now, and the good thing about it is I get up here and I get to visit with them, and they still call me coach. And when guys do that, why, it sure makes you feel good.
Wouldn't it have been tremendous if you should have come up with an expansion club and become the manager and have all those players under your wings?
Well, I don't think that we could hardly get those guys for the expansion price. But speaking of baseball, I like the Boston Ball Club real well. I think they have as good a young players as there is in the American League. And Fisk, of course, when we did our balloting for the All-Star game, I put him on as my catcher because he has really impressed me, the young guy.
Is that so? You know, you mentioned Fisk. Carlton comes from our part of the country, and naturally we're mighty proud of the young fellow.
Yes, I'm sure you are, because he is a good one, and looks, he's going to be here a long time, I'm sure.
Bobby, you've developed an outstanding number of players. You mentioned Reggie Jackson, Rick Mundy, Sal Bando from one ball club alone, and of course that of the Oakland Athletics, and then Duffy Dyer, and then a couple of others that you mentioned, Gary Gentry, Len Randall of the Texas Rangers. Those are tremendous ball players. Each one is a star in his own right.
Yeah, they're fairly young. I think Bando probably is the oldest, and he's probably 26 or 7 in that area, so he's got another 10 years to play. And it was a great break for me when those 3 kids all ended up on the same ball club, because publicity-wise, nationally, we were on TV and things like that because they did come from school. So those 3 guys had a lot to do with my success at Arizona State.
There probably is no baseball player in the game today who swings as freely as Jackson, would you say, Bobby?
Well, from the ball players that I've seen, I think that he is an extremely impressive hitter, and I think that Dick Allen from Chicago is an extremely impressive hitter in the way they take their rips at the plate and never get cheated. Allen, of course, is a little older, but I think that Reggie will have a chance someday to hit 50 to 60 home runs in the big leagues, and to me that's the start of being a superstar, plus he's got the great speed and the great arm.
A couple of years ago, Reggie Jackson had 47 homers, didn't he? And he looked as though he was going to reach that figure 50 in easy fashion.
Well, and if you remember, the following year he held out for quite a bit more money than Mr. Fenway was willing to offer him, and missed all of spring training except maybe the last 2 or 3 days, Leo. And I think we're looking at lower averages this year, and I just think now that spring training is a pretty important facet for any young man, and that he should never miss it if he can help it, because of strike this year, and you know, everybody got off to slower hitting by missing a couple of weeks. So I thought maybe spring training was too long, but now that I've been here for a year and look back at those different things, and the other is Vida Blue. Look what happened to him by missing all of spring training, because you just can't do it by working out. Because Reggie Jackson really worked hard at Arizona State every day, but he didn't get to face that live pitching. So spring training to me has become an important time anymore in which to do your fundamentals and to get your guys looking at live pitching and in live situations.
And Bobby, out of the 675 Major League ball players who showed up at spring training, only one has shown so far that he didn't need it. However, he must have done some under the grandstand. That's Dick Allen.
Yeah, that's the guy that we just
and he's right up there.
Well, you know, Dick doesn't take batting practice, and he just comes out and plays the ball game. But we can't refer to everybody as a Dick Allen because he's an exceptional ball player, Leo.
So right. You know, last year at this particular time, Roy, my companion here, and I had the pleasure of being in Detroit for the All-Star game when your boy really conked one out of that Tiger Stadium, Reggie Jackson.
Yes, when we went there, this is my first trip into Detroit. I did take the Pan American team there last year, but I didn't pay any attention to the transformers that were up and where they were. And when we got there this year, and they showed me where he hit that ball, and it was into a slight wind or a pretty good wind, and a guy who can hit him that far has to be pretty strong.
Oh, he really conked that one, I'll tell you. I think it's still going.
If it hadn't hit that transformer, they might have found it somewhere else.
There's no doubt about that. Bobby, do you find, you must find a great deal of difference, of course, Major League Baseball level compared to where you were in the college ranks. Of course, you were with an outstanding college team, but do you find a great difference?
Well, there is quite a bit of difference in several respects. In the college baseball, for instance, everybody makes the same money, and everybody is striving to be a professional ball player. And therefore, when you ask him to do something or suggest, he'll just break his heart to try and do that for you. Now, in the big leagues, the guys have more ability and they make different money, and I think that has something to do with the temperament of a guy because he's playing for his bread. Where in college, he's playing just to get a chance to play professionally. So I've noticed a little bit different in the temperament. There is a little bit more of a temperament problem, I think, in the big leagues than there is in college, just because of the difference in the guys. But also in college, we played a shorter schedule, and our guys ran a little harder and did things like that they, playing 162 games, they slow down a little bit, I think, in the big leagues. I'd like to see the game speeded up a little bit, just from the point of the pitchers getting to the mound in a hurry and getting ready, and to the hitter getting to home plate. It seems to me like big league hitters spend a lot of time outside of the box rather than in it. And I think that if you don't have yourself mentally prepared to just walk up and hit the ball, that all the standing around is not going to mentally help you get ready to hit a pitcher.
No, you're so right. I know you've had so many outstanding players at Arizona State, but this Sal Bando has to be somebody else again.
Sal Bando, I think, is one of the most consistent players in the American League, and he got off to a bad start this year, and I noticed yesterday in the paper, or today in the Boston paper, that he has 48 runs batted in and is tied for second, and he's one of those guys that you don't really read a lot about, but every time you look in the box score or in the statistics, you see that Sal has played another good ball game. He makes very few errors, and he has an excellent arm. So of all the players that I've had, I'd have to say that he is the most consistent performer of anybody that ever played for me at school.
And probably a fine man, too.
Yes, sir. Sal Bando is one of those really just a gentleman and the kind of guy that you like to say. And he played for me, you know.
So right, you know, in Baltimore, the World Series, or was it the playoffs, he had his entire family there, his father and mother, his in-laws, and some in-laws he didn't even have to bring.
Right.
And they were all his guys.
Yes, I know. Those Italian people have big families, and they all stick together. And his mother and father, when he was at Arizona State, used to come to Tempe, Arizona, and spend their vacation there to watch him play every day.
That's amazing.
It is.
Bobby, I certainly want to thank you very much for this interview, and I want to wish you worlds of luck with the California Angels, and I also want to wish you at this time a Major League managerial post soon.
Well, thank you very much, Leo. It's my pleasure to visit with you.
Thank you, Bobby.
You bet.
This was an interview with Coach Bobby Winkles of the California Angels, a former Arizona State College coach, a fellow who turned out countless Major League ball players. And this brings us to the end of With Malice to It. And for today, until tomorrow at this same time, from Fenway Park, Leo Cloutier, good day. Thanks a million,
Thanks,
Bobby.
Leo. Yes, nice to meet you. Okay.
Good luck, Bobby. Thank you.
Please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get more classic sports interviews from Leo Cloutier with Malice Toward None. Brought to you by Poster Fix, offering poster restoration and linen backing for 40 years. At Poster Fix, we bring your vintage posters back to life.